All right, let's dive straight into this fascinating explainer of a seriously entertaining transmigration drama. So we're looking at a story where modern combat, a fiercely independent mindset, and, believe it or not, high school chemistry absolutely conquer archaic, toxic family politics. I mean, if you've ever watched a historical drama and just wanted to scream at the screen because the main characters are way too passive, well, you're going to absolutely love the blueprint for domination we're mapping out today.
So the story kicks off with a brilliant inciting question. How exactly does a modern mixed martial arts fighter survive in a historical drama? And honestly, the answer is violently and very effectively. Our protagonist, Wang Jinju, is a modern Sanda champion who suddenly wakes up trapped in the body of a historical butcher's daughter. And to make matters worse, she's immediately thrust into this deeply toxic in-law family after being married off to a gentle farmer named Chen Tianfeng. She literally has zero time to adjust before she's fighting tooth and nail for her new family's survival.
Right away, she hits them with this mindset. The main branch owes nothing to anyone. It just instantly establishes her modern perspective, you know? In the typical, archaic tropes of her new village life, the eldest son's family is basically expected to silently slave away for the entire household. But Jinju, she completely rejects that premise on day one. She brings hard boundaries and assertiveness to an era that pretty much demands absolute, unquestioning submission.
Okay, moving on to Section 1. Meet the Transmigrated Champion. Let's briefly explore the initial setup of this incredibly satisfying zero-to-hero journey.
So, Jinju is a champion in Sanda. Now, Sanda isn't just about throwing random punches. It's a modern Chinese combat sport that requires intense tactical discipline. She doesn't just use her physical strength to slap away abusive relatives, although, let's be real, she definitely does that too. But more importantly, she uses the strategic mind of a champion fighter to evaluate her battlefield, pinpoint weaknesses, and fiercely protect her exploited, gentle husband, Tianfeng.
Which brings us to Section 2, the toxic family tree. To really get her struggle and why her eventual victories are just so satisfying, we have to map out the warring factions inside this Chen household.
It's basically a classic parasite dynamic. On one side, we have the main branch, that's Jinju and Tianfeng. They are hardworking, poor, and ruthlessly exploited. On the other side is the second branch, featuring the scheming grandmother, the lazy second aunt, and, most importantly, the golden child scholar Qin Shuyan. The entire household operates to drain the hardworking main branch of literally all their resources, meat and money, just to support this one pampered scholar. And to put into perspective just how awful these people are, 5 taels of silver. That is exactly how cheaply the family values a human life. It's the bridal price the second branch hopes to get by forcibly selling Ten Wei, who is Jinzu's 14-year-old sister-in-law, to a human broker. I mean, they want to sell a human being just to help pay for the golden child scholar's exams and his own upcoming marriage. It's this absolute moral bankruptcy that finally pushes Jinzu to go on the offensive. The problem is pretty abundantly clear. So, in Section 3, Splitting the Chen Family, let's look at the solution. Jinju knows for a fact she can't thrive while attached to these parasites. She doesn't just ask nicely, either. She rapidly disrupts their control. First, she physically fights off the elders trying to sell Tianwei. Then, she completely shatters their expectations by flat-out refusing to cook, forcing the lazy second branch into an alternating chore schedule. She even starts hiding the meat her husband hunts so her own malnourished family can finally get a good meal. And this all culminates when the second branch actually attempts to kidnap Tianwei, and Jinju drags the village chief right to their front doorstep.
But Jinju knows physical force isn't quite enough. She needs real leverage. So she threatens the one thing the second branch actually cares about, Shuyan's pristine reputation and his future exam prospects, backing them into a corner with a formal kidnapping charge. By doing this, she successfully forces a legal division of the family property, effectively cutting the parasite off from the host.
With her freedom finally secured, the physical battles end and the economic domination begins. Section 4. Building a soap empire. This is where Jinju leverages her modern knowledge of chemistry to build a massive business empire.
Her startup blueprint is actually genius. She starts by creating high-quality soap using incredibly cheap inputs, discarded butcher scraps from her father, cheap badger fat hunted by her husband, plant ash from the stove, and wild soap berries she gathers from the mountains. Her overhead is practically non-existent, but by using her modern understanding of saponification, like curing the soap for 20 days, she creates a product that is literally light years ahead of anything in the local town. The sheer economics of her strategy are brilliant because she realizes that packaging is everything. A basic bar of soap costs her less than 3 coins to make and sells for maybe up to 25. But by adding honey, goat milk, and putting it in a beautifully carved tonguewood box, her base cost barely bumps up to around 5 coins, yet she retails it for over 100 coins. She's marking up her product exponentially based purely on perceived luxury.
And she doesn't stop at soap. She rapidly expands her product line, applying modern product differentiation to completely corner the high-end luxury market. We're talking aloe and beeswax face creams using wild mountain aloe. Diverse shades of orange, pink, and scarlet lip rouge packaged in clever twist-up bamboo tubes, pearl powder cosmetics. She even identifies saltpeter on the mountain, which she knows she can use in an endothermic reaction to literally create ice in the middle of summer. All of this hustle leads to a massive milestone, 100 taels of silver. This is the hefty deposit she secures from young Master Liu for an exclusive order intended for the Marquis' floral banquet. Just think about that for a second. Earlier in the story, her in-laws were willing to completely ruin a young girl's life for just 5 taels. Jinju's modern business acumen has officially turned her into an absolute economic powerhouse.
Okay, now for the payoff. Section 5, the ultimate boss move. As Jinju builds her immense wealth and protects her family, the second branch faces their spectacular, entirely self-inflicted karmic downfall.
Tracking their paths over just 3 months reveals an infuriating contrast. While Jinju is elevating her family, the so-called noble scholar Xu Yan literally sells his own 13-year-old sister to a notoriously abusive 50-year-old man just to fund his exams. He does actually pass his scholar exam in month 2, but because he alienated the main branch, he's left entirely destitute. So by month 3, driven by sheer greed and desperation, his pregnant wife and mother plot a nighttime heist to steal Jinju's luxury cosmetics.
But come on, you don't try to outsmart a tactical champion. Anticipating the robbery, our transmigrated protagonist sets a brilliant, incredibly satisfying trap. She strings up a tripwire along the perimeter wall, exactly where they plan to climb down, and places buckets of caustic saltpeter water, which was the chemical runoff from her ice making, right in their landing zone.
When Xuyan's mother inevitably sneaks over the wall, trips, and gets burned by the chemical water, the second branch has the absolute audacity to demand medical compensation. And this is the exact moment Jinju flips the script. She throws ancient legal jargon right back at them, declaring that since they trespassed onto her private, divided property, it counts as injury by household storage under county law. She tells them basically, if you don't compensate me for the disturbance, I'm sending the scholar's mother to jail for theft, which would instantly ruin his academic career.
And that brings us to our ultimate boss move. She doesn't just defend her property, she extracts 10 taels of silver in compensation from the destitute scholar, just to let his trespassing mother walk away without facing the magistrate. I mean, it is a flawless, calculated checkmate against years of abuse.
It's just a perfectly satisfying zero-to-hero conclusion. Jinju didn't just use her fists, right? She used firm boundaries, chemistry, economics, and legal leverage to completely dominate her environment. And honestly, it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to ponder. If you woke up tomorrow in a historical drama, facing down a toxic family with 0 resources, what modern skill or knowledge would you leverage to build your own empire? Think about it, because as Jinju proved, survival isn't just about strength, it's about strategy.